the community, through the comprehensive planning that we're doing, is defining how it wants to see itself over time. The Economic and Community Development Department, in conjunction with planning and all the other town departments, are ensuring that we have in place the regulations and the process and the structure that the town can get to be what the town wants to be, which in my view includes a respect for green space, a respect for the earth that we live on.
Hampden has many attributes that make it attractive to development. We're a relatively affluent community that takes pride in its development and grows with intent and purpose. Hampden offers a diversity of residential neighborhoods, a business and commerce park that is ideally situated near transportation corridors, a quaint and welcoming downtown, a new high school under construction with a school system known for its excellence in education, and a marina on the waterfront, and a waterfront that offers additional development opportunities as the town grows forward.
Hampden creates a nirvana of sorts for me, because it is what the way Maine, in my eyes, is. It's peaceful, but yet everything that you need is within 5-10 minute drive. That Hampden culture brings that peacefulness that the mall area doesn't have. And that's what that urban sprawl and growth, the Hampden balances the growth and the effects of it, so that you end up with the best of both worlds. You have that quality of life that is never jeopardized because the growth is managed, but it's managed in such a subtle way that it brings out the best of everything. So that way, I guess that was one of the big allures of coming to town. I was able to get the best of all the worlds. I was able to have the building that I wanted, in the location that I wanted, and in turn the community supported that, and I was able to, when you're able to live your dream, it's not work. You're able to really enjoy life. And I think that's a reflection of what happens. So that when you come to Hampden, it's really not work, it's life. But you're enjoying it. So that's why I say that's that culture that Hampden is breeding. And this new program that they have that helps it, it even expedites the whole process. And the growth is occurring.
I think what developers need to know is quite simple. They need to know what's expected of them, when it's expected, and when can they get into business. That's what they want to know. They want to know what the rules are up front, and they want some assurances that whatever those rules are, they don't change during the process. This is complicated in the state of Maine because there are 492 towns with the possibility of having 492 sets of different types of regulations. So in order to fairly provide developers with the guidance they need, you need to have a very well articulated set of regulations with the expectations of the community, and you need to be able to articulate that to them up front and not change it along the way. And that's really was our goal from the start.
It was such a smooth process that I didn't even realize that I was the newbie on the block. This was new to me. It was new to them, but it was so well organized that it was perfect for growth.
Hampden is a community that seeks a balance of development and conservation, preserving of its rural landscapes and its greenery, keeping it a rural yet attractive community for both residential and commercial development.
Fundamentally, there are three components to the development process. First, there's the town, the policy. That's where the council sets the direction of the community through a comprehensive planning process and subsequent adoption of land use regulations that implements the intentions of the comprehensive plan. That is the policy part, component number one. Component number two is the implementation for the administration of that policy, and that's where it comes to staff. Staff has a responsibility to make that happen, if you will, through the various spectrums of responsibilities, such as public works, water, sewer, planning, code enforcement, fire, all have a role to play in the implementation of those regulations. And then lastly is the developer.
In all reality, the stuff that the town wanted me to do with the design process up front eliminated and saved me money so that I ended up actually coming in on budget. And that was, for a project this size, it really was, that's kind of hard to do in these days.
Once a course of direction is established for the development coming in, the application would come into Rosemary, our administrative assistant. Rosemary then processes the application with the various permit fees and assembles the documentation, if you will, and distributes that to the various departments. Departments all take a look at it, and we schedule a meeting with the developer to sit down and have a discussion on where we go, how we get there, and how we can help and facilitate his development.
I check the application for completeness, make sure I have enough copies. I distribute those copies around to the appropriate staff members that need to review it, look at it, make comments. It goes out to our engineer. I do the scheduling on the calendar to bring the application in front of the planning board, and we let the applicant know what date he's going to be heard and when he can expect comments back, and we set up meetings with the applicant so he knows exactly what process he's going through and what concerns our staff members have.
The town planner function is primarily one to be the staff for the planning board. What happens is that you have a planning board that are appointed by the town council. They are laymen generally, although some of them have experience and you know, pertinent knowledge of real estate or engineering or land surveying or law or other things. But on whole, their function is to provide a mechanism to offer up a public hearing on a development proposal, and then to review specific review criteria that are laid out in the zoning ordinance, and to evaluate whether or not a development proposal meets those standards.
The developer needs to respect the fact that the town knows what it wants, it knows who it wants to be, it knows where it wants to go. If a developer comes to a town and wants to be part of the future of that town, that perspective helps enormously in getting through a review process.
My role on the development team as the sole person in the GIS IT department is a few things. First, since I do the GIS, which is Geographic Information Systems, it's basically databases and management of information in a spatial reference system. So I have a lot of data layers that visually you can see where you are on the earth, and a lot of them are the local town zoning, environmental restrictions, whether that's local or state or federal. It'll show you different wildlife habitats, that sort of thing. I also interface with the Hampden Water District. They have their own data layers that keep track of where the pipes are. So if it's a project that involves public water, I'll coordinate with them to make sure that the project engineer for the proposed project is in touch with the correct person at the water district for that data information. Also have sewer information, that's town level. Secondly, for the development review team, since my degree is actually in forestry, I do a lot of the landscape review to make sure the species proposed on the landscaping plan are native, non-invasive species. Spacing is appropriate given the size the trees might grow to. Thirdly, during the actual development review meetings that we have, I'm the one that takes the notes during the meeting, and then Rosemary, our administrative assistant, types them up. I proof them to make sure she understood my shorthand correctly, and then I email them out to everyone that was at the meeting so that we're all on the same page and all came away with the same message from the meeting that we had.
We look to where the developer can hook onto the sewer And with that, proper area of installation of a driveway or entrance, sizing the culvert, and then we explain to the developer what we require as far as erosion control and ditching and so on and so forth. From my perspective, when we have a team reviewing these plans, is I might miss something where, Dean, you could see something that I usually pick out that I had missed. Maybe as far as Keith goes, I might see something that, geez, maybe there should be an extra fire hydrant there. Just an example. But it's reassuring to know that there's more than one set of eyes looking at the plans, and we all work as a team.
Part of my role as code enforcement officer is to initially review the application for completeness along with the planning department and begin to determine whether or not the application, again, is complete or ultimately meets the ordinance. The ordinance criteria that we're going through for each individual zoning district, and the site plan standards that need to be met. Those are the types of things that I'm looking at when an application comes in. I think using the team approach is very helpful to staff and the applicant. Having more sets of eyes on the application and comments being made around a table where if an issue comes up, other people there can reflect upon how that might impact their part of what they're looking at with the application, and really kind of eliminates the applicant from having to chase after different staff people, leave the meeting, go talk to somebody else. This way we're all around a table and all the comments are being communicated clearly to the applicant at one time.
I met with Dean about a year before I even bought the building and told him what my dream was with the building, because it was actually a residential piece of property. And he helped me achieve my dream of turning this private residence into a commercial building. And basically, at that meeting, with all the department heads there all at the same time, that hoop jumping process, I was established the hoops that I needed to jump through. And all the guidelines and anything that I needed to do from that project, from start to finish, was discussed on that first day. And that never changed from the day of that meeting to the time we cut our ribbons.
When you do a restaurant requires quite a few parking spaces, so it made the layout of the parking lot improvements and so forth quite different than what the prior application had been. So our goal was to provide them with as much guidance as soon as we could, so that they would know, okay, this is how many parking spaces the town of Hampden is going to require, and what's the fire department going to need for emergency access onto the site, and a number of those kind of things, and give them that guidance so that then they could go and design a site development that could meet those sorts of standards. We met them on site and did a tour of the existing building and so forth, and were able to identify some things when we were out on site that were helpful to them as well.
It was surprising how quickly this project came together. The applicant had told us what their timeline was, and we had initially thought it might be a little aggressive, but we were certainly doing everything we could to make sure that timeline worked for them, and I think it worked out pretty well.
The bathrooms were in the basement, so from the water meter up is all brand new. from the other side of the street, the electrical service from the other side of the street is all new. It was on a private septic system that we had to take the private septic system and hook into the public system. We had a pond where we had to do site work and bring in fill to fill in the pond to create a 21,000 square foot parking lot. And we added a 15 by 30 foot addition and an 18 by 23 foot addition to accommodate and transfer the private residence into the commercial piece of property. And that whole process, well, the pictures of where the kitchen was and where the dining room was and where the garage was is all, there's before and after pictures, but the transformation was quite a process.
I met a couple of times with the developer's contractor. There was some minor erosion control measures that need to be taken, a little bit of ditching beyond what he had already done. But that was done immediately.
I may look at something in a different perspective than an official at the town office does. But the town office might listen to my suggestion and think that it's a good idea and will work towards implementing it so everyone can benefit from it.
Anglers was our project. We became, I felt as though we were almost a part of the restaurant, and I think Bud Hall would probably agree, is that we wanted this process to work for him as much as for us, and we collaborated with him. And fortunately, we had an equal player in the game. Bud's overall goals and objectives were exactly the same as ours were. So the collaboration worked. We moved forward together. We overcame obstacles as they were presented, all in the interest of getting the business in, getting it up and running. And I think we were both quite successful at doing that.
Hampden is known as the community of choice in central Maine because we strive to be.
I suppose it's a glass half full and a glass half empty, and I guess Hampden's glass is half full. Actually, it's probably 3/4 full, almost overflowing.
I think that you will find that in 10 to 20 years, Hampden will continue to be the community of choice in central Maine.